All right, so please confirm you can hear me. All right, awesome, awesome. All right, so it's exciting to be here. I'm excited for the session we're going to have today. I'm also excited. I mean, just listening to the testimonial from Lloyd, it's already giving me a lot of energy, right? And I'm looking forward to the conversation we're going to be having this evening, right? So I especially welcome you all to Analytics Masterclass. I'm going to be the host for tonight's session, and I'm really looking forward to everything that we're going to cover in tonight's session. Now, I would like for you to introduce yourselves, right? But we are a lot on the call right now, and time may not permit us to go all round. But I would like for you to share a bit of information about yourself. Firstly, I would like you to share your name and where exactly you're joining the call from. All right, so you can type that in the call chat, right? And I'll just be looking out for those names. All right, my name is Jedediah Usara. I'm a senior data associate here at Analytics and also the team lead for the full stack data science team. And I'm going to be the host for tonight's masterclass. I'm going to be taking us through the differences between data science, data analytics, and data engineering, and which career path might be right for you. All right, so please go on to introduce yourself. Thank you for Larry, who is joining us from London. All right, so please, I would like for every single person on the call right now to just send in a message. Let me know your name and where you're currently joining the call from. All right, so it's good to see you for Larry. It's exciting to have you in the class. Yes, everyone else, let's bring up the energy. Let's bring up the energy. All right, so I'm looking out for our messages. So far, just one from Polari. Okay, so we have Ara from Lagos. Fantastic. Ara, it's good to see you on the call. Bright from UK. Interesting. Bright is joining from UK. Oyindamola is joining us from Senegal. That's fantastic. Oyindamola, it's good to see you. Helen from UK. Fantastic, fantastic. All right, exciting. So I'll be looking out for more responses from us. We have Oyinlomo from South Africa. We have Ismail from Lagos. Fantastic. Right. So I would just like to establish a bit of ground of housewarming as we'll be proceeding into the session. Now it's a virtual session and we might not be able to have back and forth conversations because of the time limit. Right. And I would not also be able to see you and pick up on physical cues like you nodding your head or looking at me so I know you're paying attention. All right. So at intervals, I'll be asking for responses in the chat box. I would need you to give me a thumbs up or react to it an emoji. So please ensure that you are consistent with this. All right. So it just helps me know that, yes, I'm actually having a conversation here with people and they didn't just log in on their computers and are doing something else. All right. So I'll be looking forward to that much engagement. All right. So fantastic. Thank you so much for your responses from Bright, Ara, Helen, Lomo, Ishmael, and everyone else. All right. Fantastic to have you all here. Now, quickly, I would like to also ask if this is your very first Analytics masterclass. If this is your very first, this is the very first masterclass you're joining, it's Analytics masterclass. Kindly type a 1 in the chat. Just type in 1. If this is the very first masterclass you're joining, it's Analytics masterclass, type a 1. And if you have joined a previous masterclass before, you can type in a 0 in the chat. All right, so Lomo is joining for the very first time. Lomo, we specially welcome you. We also have Ishmael Oladumi also joining for the very first time. It's awesome to have you all in the session. Blessing is also joining for the very first time. Fantastic. It's exciting to have you all. There's a lot for us to learn today, right? And very quickly, I'm going to dive into the core conversation for today. All right, so my screen should be up any moment, and I believe we can follow from there. All right, great. So I believe everyone can see my screen now, and we can proceed to the rest of the session. All right, so the focus of today's session would be on demystifying the differences between data engineers, data analysts, and data scientists. Right? Even though these are roles that have become highly in demand in the tech industry today, there are still a lot of people, right, that still mix up the responsibilities of these tech professionals. Right? There are still a lot of people that do not exactly understand what these three different tech professionals do exactly. Right? So we'll be talking about what the responsibilities of these tech professionals are and how you can actually break into these industries. Right? We'll also be discussing which one might be right for you. All right, so that will be the focus of our conversation today. For some of us, this might be the first time we're hearing about data engineering or data science, right? And we might not exactly understand, oh, between the data scientist and the data engineer, what's the difference in their role? The data analyst as well, what's the difference between what exactly they do, right? So we'll be looking at that and also how you can break into these fields, even with no tech experience, even with no prior tech experience. All right, so who are we hosting this masterclass? We are Analytics, a leading edtech brand. Right? Our focus is on helping Africans and people of the Black community to break into the tech industry. So far, we've helped over 2,855 and even more people break into the tech industry. We have nearly half a decade of experience doing this, right? Analytics has been in existence for a number of years now, right? And we have trained a lot of people through different trainings across data analytics, business analysis, data engineering, data science, and so much more. At the beginning of the session, we saw a couple of testimonials from some of the people that have gone through a program with analytics. And you can tell that they have gotten value for their money, right? You can tell that they have actually learned a lot and they have now become expert professionals in their respective fields. All right, so we are here to help you do the same, right? Make that transition into the field of tech, right? And this just gives you a hint towards the fact that we are professionals, we understand how the market works, right? And we have been doing this for a long time, so we know our onions, all right? And who am I in front of you? My name is Jedediah. I'm a seasoned tech professional, a data scientist with nearly half a decade of experience. I've worked with organizations across the US, UK, Canada, and yes, of course, Nigeria. I've worked in roles like data analytics, data scientist, and worked on machine learning projects across industries like aviation, healthcare, finance, and so on, education, and so on. Right. I've also worked with analytics. I'm currently a senior data science associate here at Analytics, and I've trained hundreds of participants. And I'm excited to be here having this conversation with you. There's a lot for us to learn in today's session, and I'm looking forward to the conversations that we're going to be having today. And very quickly in this slide, I've broken down what we are going to be discussing in today's session. And the very first thing we'll be looking at is basically understanding the difference between who a data engineer is, who a data scientist is, and who a data analyst is. These are three related tech roles. However, they have their own individual nuances. All right, there are specific requirements that you need to have in order to fill a data engineer role. And the same goes for data analyst and data scientist roles. So we want to understand what the difference between these three tech professionals are and why these career paths are relevant, right? Are these important, right? Are these actually career paths that I can break into, right? Can I actually make money, right? Because I have interest in money as well, right? I mean, for some of us, that might be one of the reasons why we want to break into the field of tech, right? For the money. So yeah, so are these career paths actually career paths where I can make money from? All right. The second thing we'll be looking at is the pathway to break into these fields and how you can secure a job. All right. We need to understand the technical requirements and the employability skills that you need. What exactly does it take in order to land this job? All right. So first we would understand what these jobs are, what these roles are, right? What these tech professionals do. Then we'll proceed into seeing how you can transition into this role. All right. And I would recommend that you stick to the end because at the end of the session, we are going to have a special offer we are going to be sharing with you. All right. We'll be looking at a couple of success stories of participants that have gone through this program. And then we have a special offer that we're going to be sharing with you. So ensure that you stick to the end of tonight's session. There's a lot to learn and there's an opportunity for you to grab at the end of the session. All right. So if you're excited to dive into the conversation today, I would like you to throw in an emoji. Just throw in any emojis at all. Right. You can type in the chat or send a reaction. All right. Just throw in an emoji if you're excited to dive into the conversation. Fantastic. We need a lot more fantastic. Oladini, thank you so much. All right. So let's send in responses so I know you're here. A bit more energy as we dive into the conversation for today. Fantastic. Thank you, Samia. All right, so let's get started. The very first thing we'll be looking at is who a data engineer is, a data analyst, and a data scientist. All right, who are these professionals? Who is a data analyst? Who is a data scientist? Who is a data engineer? And are these even relevant career paths? Data engineering, data science, data analysis. Are these relevant career paths? Are these career paths that are actually in demand? All right. Now, don't just take our word for it. Right. We've gone ahead to conduct our own research. All right. And we are bringing in evidence. All right. We're bringing in evidence here. This is a report this is a yearly report that is accumulated by the World Economic Forum. It comes out every single year. Right. Basically, the focus of this research is on seeing jobs that are in demand for that particular year or for a period of time, right? And jobs that are likely going to notice or observe a decline in demand, right? And compensation and whatever the case might be, right? But as you can see, you would notice that data engineers, data scientists, and data analysts are some of the top in demand roles. You would also observe that the skills that you're going to be gathering are going to be beneficial to fill in these different tech roles. You can see all of them highlighted here. With the skills you're going to be gathering, you can pick up on roles such as being a big data specialist, right? AI and machine learning specialist with the skills you're going to be getting from the data science program, all right? From data analytics program as well, you can take data analyst roles, you can take process automation specialist roles. These are just a accumulation of some of the job roles that you can actually fill in with these skills. So this just points out that these career paths are actually in demand career paths. All right. These career paths are actually in demand career paths. If you go on to look at other job boards like LinkedIn, Indeed, Glassdoor, you would notice a lot of job offers come out for these specific job roles. All right. And how can you break into this field? There are three major components that you need. You need an easy way to learn. You need an effective and efficient way for you to learn. All right. You also need an easy, a streamlined pathway to transition into these fields. And one major benefit you can get is a high rewarding salary. All right. So the career paths such as data analyst, data scientist, and data engineer, these are high rewarding career paths. If you look at job boards on these different websites, you would notice that these jobs are constantly in demand and there are attractive salaries attached to these job openings. So this just gives you some level of external validation, all right, from the research conducted every single year and published by the World Economic Forum to the job openings that you constantly find on these job boards. This basically hints towards the fact that these jobs are constantly in demand. All right, these jobs are constantly in demand. How do you break into these jobs? You start by figuring out an easy way to learn, right? And after you do that, you figure out an easy way to transition. And then finally, you can benefit from the high rewarding salaries. I'm sure this is already getting excited. All right. I'm sure that some of us are already getting excited for the journey ahead. All right. So we're going to move into these core roles now. And we're going to be discussing what the major differences between these three job roles are. All right. The data engineer, the data analyst, as well as the data scientist. We're going to be starting with the data engineer. Who exactly is a data engineer? A data engineer is a tech professional who builds and designs and optimizes data pipelines. All right. The focus of a data engineer is on ensuring that data is always available. All right. And that there's a streamlined process for accessing this data. All right, so a data engineer is a professional who designs and builds data pipelines. Now, think of a typical kitchen, for example. All right, think of a typical kitchen, for example. I believe some of us have gone out to different restaurants before. Some of us have probably even worked in a restaurant before. All right, now think of the data engineer as the storekeeper. All right, who is responsible for ensuring that whatever is needed by the chef, by the waiters, and everyone else, the data engineer is responsible for making sure that it is available. All right, he's also responsible for making sure that there's a streamlined process for getting access to these things. All right, so if there's need for some of these things, the chef has to apply or probably fill a form and notify the storekeeper, right, who is in this case the data engineer. All right, so this scenario just gives an idea of what a data engineer does. Right, the same way the storekeeper is responsible for ensuring that the store is stocked with enough food items, the data engineer is responsible for making sure that a database is filled with the correct data that the organization needs. All right, he's responsible for ensuring that there's a streamlined process for how other data professionals can extract this data and make use of them. All right, it's responsible for making sure that the data is safe and secure, properly stored, neatly arranged, and ensuring that the data is analysis ready. All right, so the major responsibilities of the data engineer is, first of all, building and maintaining data pipelines, right? Ensuring that there's a streamlined process for extracting and using data. All right, they're also responsible for optimizing data storage platforms, right, and data processing equipment, right? So the data engineer makes sure that the database is stocked with the efficient or amount of data that is required, and also ensures that there's a streamlined process for retrieving that data. All right, the data engineer is also responsible for ensuring data quality and reliability. Before the data moves into that database, the data engineer makes sure that that data is fit to be used by other data professionals. Before the data moves into the database, the data engineer makes sure that the data is cleaned, properly arranged, sorted, and ensures that it is analysis ready. All right, the same way before a storekeeper moves the goods into the store, he first of all needs to check, oh, which one is damaged, which one needs which one is perishable, how do we need to sort out these food items, which one needs to go into the freezer, which one needs to go on shelves, which one can be kept in bags, and so on. Right, the data engineer is also responsible for ensuring that the data is properly kept in the right environment. All right, they also ensure data quality and reliability, like I explained, ensuring that data is clean and ready for analysis. They also support data-driven applications. So basically, they are the backbone of the team, ensuring that whatever the other data professionals need to conduct the analysis, it is made available, which in this case is going to be data. All right, and then moving on to the data analyst. Now, the job of the data analyst is slightly different from that of the data engineer. We've seen that the data engineer is responsible for making sure that the data is made available. Now, the data analyst is responsible for analyzing this data. The data that has been collected and stored in a database. The data analyst is responsible for retrieving this data, processing and analyzing it to help the organization make informed decisions. Right? They basically focus on extracting insights from this data. All right, so the data analyst in this case basically allows the data engineer, first of all, sets up the database, and then the data analyst is able to retrieve data from that database, analyze it, and pick up on patterns that might exist within the data. Their focus is on extracting insights and communicating that to stakeholders. All right, so some of their responsibilities would cut across identifying business trends, generating reports. All right, so a data analyst will typically go through processes like developing visualizations and building dashboards in order to be able to communicate their findings from the data. All right, so the data engineer has already established the data rightly fit and stored properly for use. Now the data analyst comes in to use that data. All right, They look into the data, identify trends that might exist. Is there a pattern in our data? Are we observing that we are making more sales every weekend? Is that a pattern that we are seeing repeating itself? Or if we look at our data on a year-to-year basis, we are observing that towards the end of the year and at the beginning of a new year, there's usually a spike. We make a lot of sales. Those are patterns that are being observed. Oh, because it's Christmas period, New Year, there's a lot of festivities happening towards the end of the year and at the beginning of a new year. You observe that there's constantly a spike in sales. That's a pattern that's being observed. Now, if you look at the entire data granularly, right, just directly from the database, you might not be able to pick up on these things. But the data analyst goes into that data, analyzes it, and also visualizes these pieces of data to see what patterns, what trends, what behaviors exist within the data. They also generate reports, like I said, by creating visualizations, documenting what they have been able to find from the data. And after doing all of this, they provide insights for the data. And they do this by presenting to the stakeholders. All right, the stakeholders could be your manager, it could be the business operators, and basically people who are responsible for executing, or people who have a say, right, in the decision making of the organization. All right, so there's a lot that goes on, right? There are streamlined processes, but the major focus of the data analyst is on identifying trends, identifying patterns, generating reports, and presenting these reports to stakeholders. All right, presenting these reports to stakeholders. And now the final role is that of the data scientist. Now, I mentioned earlier that the data engineer is like the storekeeper. All right, the data engineer is like the storekeeper that tells us, oh, this is what we have been able to find. Or that basically ensures that the store is filled, right, which is our data warehouse, our database, and so on. It ensures that we have sufficient data to work with. The data analyst is like the waiter in the restaurant. All right, the data analyst is like the waiter in the restaurant. It looks into the store, looks into what is currently available, and is able to have conversations with the customers. Oh, what would you like to have today? Oh, this is what I would like to have today. All right, and then the data analyst can now take in that data, analyze it, and basically start to pick out, is there a pattern? What is currently happening? What are customers interested in? What would they like to have today, based on the data that's been collected and analyzed? All right, so the data analyst is like the waiter in the restaurant, and then the data scientist is like the chef in the kitchen. All right, the data scientist is like the chef in the kitchen. Now, sometimes the data analyst might be required to handle some tasks, right, that are quite similar to what exactly the data scientist does, right? But I'm going to be explaining the very difference, the nuances between the data scientist and the data analyst. Now, data scientist is a professional who extracts insights from data, right? Just like the data analyst. But the data scientist takes it a step further by applying statistical analysis and machine learning methods, right? They apply predictive methods and data-driven storytelling to drive strategic decisions. Now, the focus of the data analyst is on analyzing your data, picking up on patterns, and communicating that. All right. But then the data scientist takes it a step further, ensuring that decisions can be made from that data. Right. They don't just analyze the data, they don't just extract the insight, but they also relate that to the business situation and see how they can drive strategic decision making. All right. So the data scientist is responsible for translating data into business strategy. They look into data, find out if there are certain hidden patterns that might exist within the data. The data scientist is like a detective, all right, that goes into the data and drills it deeply, right, really looks into the data closely to see what kind of patterns might exist. Now, sometimes they might not be so obvious, and that's why the data scientist has to apply advanced analytical tools to ensure that they are able to extract deep insights, and they can also develop predictive models so they can see what is likely going to be happening based on the patterns that are observed within the data. All right, so the data scientist, the role of the data scientist is slightly different from that of the data analyst, in that the data scientist takes the job a step further, all right, by analyzing the data a lot more in depth, not just picking up on patterns that exist in the data, but also communicating this, using them to drive strategic decision making within the organization, as well as ensuring that they're able to conduct predictive analytics, forecasting what is likely going to happen. All right, think of the magician that is able to see the future. All right, data scientists do something similar, right, but it's not magic in this case. It's mathematics, all right, and advanced analytical tools being applied on data. All right, so they pick up on patterns and behaviors within the data, some of the seasonalities that might exist within the data, and are able to predict them after learning from these patterns. All right, some of us have had engagements on YouTube, Netflix, maybe even Spotify, right? And you maybe play a song, and maybe you are listening to a specific genre of songs, and eventually you notice that Spotify begins to suggest similar songs to you. All right, some of us might have observed that, or maybe you saw a movie on Netflix, and after you finish seeing that movie, you see that Netflix is already showing you another kind of movie that's similar to that one. All right, maybe you just finished watching Avengers Endgame, and then Netflix is recommending Spider-Man Homecoming. All right, that's just an example anyway. All right, so or maybe you saw certain videos on YouTube, you were watching certain videos on YouTube, and by the time you were done, you noticed that YouTube was already recommending similar videos to you. All right, that's something that a data scientist is able to develop by observing patterns and behaviors in the data. All right, every video that you are watching on YouTube is data that is being generated on YouTube. All right, and there's a pattern, right? There are other people that have searched for the same kinds of things. There are other people that have looked for those same videos, probably other people that had similar interests as you, right? And they saw those other videos. So now that you are coming to look at similar things, YouTube is saying, oh, Mr. A looks like they are trying to do the same thing that Mr. B did yesterday. Yesterday, Mr. B saw this video, went on to search for this one, and went on to look for this other one. So if Mr. A is seeing similar videos, we can recommend the same videos that Mr. B saw yesterday. All right. So it's basically the job of the data scientist is to uncover hidden patterns that might exist within the data and develop predictive models based on these patterns that are observed in the data. So far, we've been able to look at these three tech professionals: the data engineer, the data analyst, and the data scientist. The data engineer is responsible for ensuring that the data warehouse, the database, is stocked up with sufficient data, properly organized and formatted so that it can be used for analysis. The data analyst is responsible for looking into this data and extracting insights from this data. Also, they are responsible for communicating their findings, right? And they leverage visual tools such as dashboards to communicate their findings from the data. The data scientist takes it a step further, right? To take those insights, analyze the data, extract these insights, observe patterns that might exist, seasonalities, right? Trends that might exist within the data, and use them to drive strategic decision making within an organization. So these three tech professionals work hand in hand. However, each person's role is nuanced. Each person's role is unique. They have unique responsibilities that they carry out. If this is all making sense so far, can you type a 1 in the chat? If this is all making sense so far, kindly type a 1 in the chat. If this is all making sense, type a 1 in the chat. Fantastic. Thank you, Vinola, Oyindamola, Dorcas, and everyone else. Fantastic then. So these three tech professionals, like I've said, work hand in hand. Even though their roles are different, right? They have their individual responsibilities. Their roles are quite similar to each other. To work as a data engineer, the data engineers, like I mentioned, they work in the back end, right? They don't have a lot of conversations with the front end people, right? Their responsibilities are majorly focused on ensuring that data is made available. All right, their responsibility is ensuring that data is made available, properly structured, and readily available, and ensuring that there's a streamlined process for retrieving and using this data. The data analyst is responsible for extracting that data from the database after the data engineer has structured it, has stored it in the database. The data analyst extracts it and uses it to uncover patterns and communicate insights to business stakeholders. The data scientist takes it a step further to use these insights to drive strategic decision making. So there's a process here. The data engineer has to play their role, the data analyst has to play their role, and the data scientist also has to play their own roles. Now, there are a plethora of jobs that you can actually apply to from these different tech skills. But so far, we've seen these three different tech professionals. And this is just a further breakdown of the differences between the kinds of activities that they conduct. All right. The data engineer designs systems that collect data from various sources. All right. They collect the data, gather it, ensure that it's in a central location, and store them. All right. The data analyst extracts insights from the data. All right. The data scientist, right? I said the data engineer is like the storekeeper, right? The data analyst is like the waiter. The data scientist is like the chef in the kitchen. All right. He's able to understand the demand of the customer. All right. And he's able to ensure that those demands are met. You understand the demands of the business. Oh, what do our customers want to have today? Right. What are our customers interested in? Oh, our customers tend to like jollof rice more than maybe the white rice and stew. All right. And then they go on to ensure that they provide what is being required of them. And they can go on to predict, oh, is Nigerian jollof better than Ghanaian jollof? All right. And then they can go on to ensure that they're able to put the right systems in place to ensure that the best jollof is constantly made available. All right. So I'm not trying to raise an argument here, right? Because I know that's a an argument that has been going on for forever, right? The argument between Nigerian and Ghanaian jollof. But yeah, the data scientist is responsible for ensuring that these insights are extracted and they are used to make strategic decisions. They are used to make decisions that ensure that the business is continually developing. Right. Here I've outlined some of the core responsibilities of these different tech professionals. All right. I've mentioned that the data engineer designs systems that collect data from various sources and cleans and transforms this data and make sure that their analysis ready. They also implement data storage in a way that it is efficient, secure, and scalable. They ensure that the data is saved in a central location, it is secured, and it is scalable. That simply means that if we have more data, we can ensure that that entire data fits into the current storage system. Right? If we need to adjust it, maybe make it bigger or make it smaller, they ensure that all of that is made possible. They also orchestrate the data flow and enable integration with different systems. Right? The data analyst and the data scientists are going to be working with different tools. Right? The data engineer makes sure that these other tech professionals can actually interact with this data regardless of the tool that they are making use of. They ensure that whatever tool these other tech professionals are going to be using, right, they're able to interact with this data. Right? So the data engineer is the backbone of the team, ensuring that whatever we need for analysis is made available, which in this case is the data. Now, the data scientists as well as the data analysts extract insights from data. All right. The data analyst also gets to work with structured data. The data analyst gets to work with structured data. But for the data scientists, they get to work with both structured and unstructured data. Now I'm going to explain the differences between structured and unstructured data. And I'm going to start by asking if you have made use of Microsoft Excel before. Just type in one in the chat. You've probably used Excel before, a spreadsheet package to maybe compute some data, or maybe at your place of work, you've made use of Microsoft Excel for some work to store some pieces of data. Fantastic. Now, data that is able to be stored in a spreadsheet package like that, like Microsoft Excel, is structured data. right? They are called structured because there's a pattern to how they are arranged. All right. You can arrange this data by rows and columns. All right. We can create a structured data now and say, oh, we have everyone's name in a list, and then we have maybe different subjects that they offered in a class and what their individual respective scores are for each of these subjects. All of this can be arranged in a tabular form, right? So that's basically an example of structured data that can be arranged in rows and columns, right? Typically text data that can be arranged in rows and columns. That's an example of structured data. For the data scientists, they work with both structured and unstructured data. The data scientist works with both structured and unstructured data. Now, what do I mean by structured and unstructured? There are other forms of data that cannot be stored in spreadsheet packages. All right. Unlike the conventional data that we are familiar with that you can work with in Microsoft Excel, there are other forms of data that you can not work with in that structure. Right. Examples would include voice data. Right. The sound we are producing right now is all data. All right. The voice recording we are producing right now is all data. The pictures you take is all data you are generating. The videos you are watching on YouTube is all data. All right. This video right now that is being recorded, that's data being generated. These are other forms of data, but this cannot be arranged in rows and columns. All right. This cannot be arranged in rows and columns. So this kind of data is called unstructured data. So that's just the difference. Structured data are basically data that can be arranged in rows and columns in a conventional database system. All right. And then unstructured data are basically other forms of data that cannot be arranged in that structure. All right. I believe this is making sense. I believe this is making sense. If you're following, can you give me a thumbs up? If you're following, give me a thumbs up. All right. Structured and unstructured data. All right. The data engineer works with both types of data, right? Because they need to ensure that this data is compiled in a central location and is accessible to these tech professionals. So if the data scientist needs a collection of pictures to work with, the data engineer ensures that it's made available. All right. So the data engineer also works with both kinds of data, ensuring that they are stored in a central location so that these other data professionals can interact with them and make sense of them. All right. So we talked about structured and unstructured data. The data analyst only works with structured data, but the data scientist works with both structured and unstructured data. All right. The data analyst applies statistical tools and visualization tools to analyze data. I mentioned that they build dashboards, right? They build visualizations to be able to effectively communicate their findings. Now, the data scientist does not only do that. They apply statistical and machine learning tools. Their focus is on developing techniques for prediction. The focus of the data scientist is on developing techniques for making predictions. All right, so they go beyond the conventional kinds of analytics that you just see, looking into the data and finding out what has happened, looking into the data and extracting the insights. No, not just that. They also see what is likely going to happen in the future. What steps do we need to take in order to ensure that we remain optimal in terms of performance, or we keep making better sales, or we ensure that our customers are constantly satisfied. All right. So the data scientist applies statistical methods as well as machine learning tools, right, to ensure that they're able to develop techniques for prediction. All right. The data analyst develops visualization for effective communication of their findings. But the data scientists focus on predictive models. They're able to solve real world problems. All right. Some of us have had conversations. Some of us have had interactions with ChatGPT, with other AI models such as Siri and Alexa. Right. You have conversations with Siri. Right. You give a voice command, Siri responds to you and is able to engage with the voice command that you are giving to it. All right. That voice command that you are giving is data you are passing in. You are passing it as an instruction, and Siri is able to respond and interact with you. All right. I think sometime, I think mid or late last year, OpenAI released GPT 4.0, where you could have conversations with it. You could upload pictures. You could take a picture of a math problem, and it's able to solve it for you. All right, that's unstructured data you are passing into the model, but it's able to interpret it, understand it, and give you a response. All right, so these are all advancements in the field of data science. All right, these are further advancements in the field of data science. All right, so there are core developments that are happening for data analytics, data engineering, as well as data science. All right, so these are a couple of the responsibilities, right, and slight differences between their roles. All right, the data analyst performs descriptive diagnostic and prescriptive analytics. Descriptive, diagnostic, and prescriptive analytics. Now, these different types of analytics have their individual meanings, right? Descriptive analytics basically focuses on explaining what has happened, what can be observed from the data, what patterns can we see, right? That's the focus of descriptive analytics. And like I've explained before, that is what the data analyst does. Looks into the data, understands what exactly is happening, what patterns can he observe, what trends are being observed in the data, right? Diagnostic analytics focuses on explaining why those things have happened. All right, so this thing has happened, we have observed that, oh, we are making a loss in the sales of chairs, for example. We are making a loss in the sales of shawarma. Maybe our customers don't like shawarma so much, they are buying more burgers now, right? So we need to understand why that is happening, and that's what diagnostic analytics is about. Why exactly are we observing that pattern? And then there's prescriptive analytics. What should we do to address this situation? That's the focus of prescriptive analytics. All right, so the data analyst is responsible for these different types of analytics. However, for the data scientists, they tend to take it a step further. Besides looking into the data, understanding what has happened, besides looking into explaining why those things happen and giving recommendations, they look further into trying to figure out what is likely going to happen in the future. And that kind of analytics is called predictive analytics, right? Explaining what is likely going to happen in the future. What's the future going to look like? Is it going to rain tomorrow? All right. Are we going to make more sales next week? All right. From the observations that we have made so far, from the patterns that we have made, from the actions that we have taken, from the strategies that we have put in place, are we likely going to make more sales? Are we likely going to generate more revenue? That's the focus of the data scientists. All right. Developing models, predictive models that are able to forecast future outcomes and ensuring that their analysis is focused on driving decisions made within an organization. All right, so these are the core differences between the roles and responsibilities of these different tech professionals. And like I mentioned earlier, there are a plethora of jobs that you can apply to. There are a plethora of jobs that you can apply to. These are just a few of them. All right, there are a lot of jobs that you can actually apply to with the skills that you would be gathering in these different roles. All right, we've rightly established that these are job roles that are constantly in demand today and even further into the future. All right, so it's important that you start taking the opportunity now. Right, we can see that there are a lot of opportunities out there. Right, the name might sound slightly different, but the roles and the skills that you have within these roles would allow you to perform in any of these roles and a lot more. Right, as a data engineer with the skills of data engineering, you can pick up roles such as data platform engineer, ETL developer, and so on. With the skills of the data analyst, you can pick up roles like a marketing analyst, sales analyst, operations analyst, and so on. As a data scientist, or with the skills of the data scientist, you can pick up data scientist roles. You can pick up big data analyst role, computer vision engineer, LLM developer, forecasting analyst, and so on. There's a plethora of jobs that you can take on with these skills. All right, so we've rightly seen what these different job roles are. We've also seen that these are actually relevant job roles because they are in demand in the job market. Now we want to see what needs to be done. What do I need to do to get these jobs? All right, so Jedediah, you have sold me. I now understand that data engineering, data science, data analytics are relevant job roles. I now understand what exactly these tech professionals do, right? But what do I need to get? What do I need to do in order to get these jobs? How do I break into this field? Right? How do I break into data engineering? How do I break into data science? How do I break into data analytics? right? What exactly do I need in order to break in? There are two major things that you need, all right? I'm going to classify the things you need into two major categories. The first is going to be technical skills, all right? You need skills. You need skills. What are these skills you need? You need technical skills. You also need employability skills. These tech roles are technical intensive roles. All right. So you need to have these technical skills in order to break into this field. All right. You also need employability skills. All right. The developer or the organization is not just concerned about if you can just write code. There are other skills that they want to look out for. Can you work in a team with other professionals? We've rightly seen that the data engineer, data analyst, and data scientists work hand in hand. All right. So it's not enough that you know how to organize and set up a database. Do you know how to communicate with other data professionals? All right. So you need technical skills as well as employability skills. All right. You also need experience. Okay. You also need experience. Right. Most of these job openings you will see that the employers are asking for some level of job experience. Oh, we need 5 years job experience. We need 2 years, at least 2 years of job experience. Right. What they actually want to see, what they are concerned about, is for you to show proof of proficiency. That's just what the employer wants to see. All right. They're not really concerned about how many, if you have 10 years or if you have 5 years or if you have 3 years of experience. What they are really concerned about is, are you proficient? Can you do the job? Can you get the work done? Right? Can you show us proof that you are capable of executing? That if we employ you, we are not just wasting our money. Can you show us proof of proficiency? Can you show us proof that you are an expert at doing this? Right? As Nigerians like to say, show workings, no be cho cho cho. Right? When our boys say you will explain tire, no evidence. You need to show evidence of your proficiency. You need to show evidence that you are a tech professional. You need to show evidence that, oh, I'm a data engineer. I know how to do these things. And how do you show proof? You do that by working on projects. And we are going to explain and break down all of these, right, as we proceed further into the session. All right. But the two major things you need are firstly the skills, the technical skills and employability skills. All right. And then also you need to show some experience. You need to show some level of proficiency in the field. Now, talking about the skills, how do you get the skills? How do you get the skills? That's where Analytics comes in. All right. We help you to break into this field by training you on the core concepts that you need to know, the core things that you need to learn in order to break into the field of data engineering or data analytics or data science. All right. We take you through live classes. There's also a self-paced learning structure for you. All right. We've made available videos that extensively break down the concept that you need to learn and understand in order to become a proficient data engineer, data analyst, or data scientist. All right. So we have two learning structures. We have the self-paced learning structure for for you to go through weekly, right? And we also have the instructor-led learning structure, right? Both of these work hand in hand, and you'll be experiencing both of them when you come on the program. We have a dedicated learning management system, our own dedicated LMS that houses all of the materials that you need, all of the videos that you need for your self-paced learning structure. We also host live classes, all right? And these live classes usually happen over the weekend, ensuring that you can make time, attend these sessions, and really get the best of knowledge, right? So that you can break into these fields. Within these classes and the self-paced videos, you are able to gather the technical skills that are required for these jobs. Remember, I also mentioned that you don't only need technical skills, right? You need technical skills as well as employability skills. All right. So from the live classes and the self-paced videos, you're able to gather the technical skills that you need for the job. All right. And for the employability skills, you are able to pick these up through the employability sessions that we hold within Analytics. All right. Some of these sessions include the CV review and revamp session. All right. We ensure that we are able to revamp your CV. Right. You might have been working in a completely different industry. All right. There are sessions and processes that ensure that your CV gets revamped, reviewed, and revamped so that you can begin to apply into these tech roles with a CV that is fit for these tech roles. All right. So you might be working in healthcare, for example, or in education, or you might be working as an engineer at the moment, all right, and you want to break into this field of tech. Your CV needs to be streamlined, needs to be revamped to fit the specific kind of job you're applying to. All right, so we help you to ensure that you are able to do that. All right, we also have LinkedIn optimization sessions. All right, LinkedIn is a very powerful and effective platform that you can leverage in order to break into this tech field. All right, and we ensure that we take you through sessions, learning how you can leverage LinkedIn, learning how you can optimize your profile in order to get these jobs. All right, in order to attract the right kind of audience. All right, we also have the navigating the job market session. Now, in this session, we basically take you through how the tech market works, right? What do employers, what do recruiters look out for? What are actually in demand in the tech field, right? We help you to have a solid understanding of these things so that you know how you can fix yourself into the market, all right? We also have interview prep sessions, right? We take you through revamping your CV. We take you through LinkedIn optimization session. We also take you through understanding how the job market works. Now, with all of this knowledge, you can eventually land your very first job. Now, and when you do, as you put out applications out there, when you do get a job, right, or when you do land an interview, we have a one-on-one session with you in order to prepare you for that interview, right? And this is called the interview prep session. This is a one-on-one session, streamlined and specific for that particular job. If you have 10 jobs, you can schedule 10 different interview prep sessions. For each job, you get an opportunity to be recruited for. We ensure that you are properly prepared, not just by revamping your CV or optimizing your LinkedIn profile, but also preparing you to answer the questions that are likely going to come up in the interview, right? To answer these questions correctly. All right. We also take you through all of these sessions and help you prepare for your interview. All right. We also have the job reference made available. So when you applied for a job and they want to see, oh, where have you worked before? We need to have a reference or a recommendation letter for you in order for you to get this job. All you have to do is request for that from Tenalytics, and we make that made available for you. We ensure that that is made available to you. All right. So we provide job references when you eventually land an interview or when you eventually land a job. We also provide on-the-job support. Even after you've gotten the job, we are available to support you through the process, right? If there are difficulties or challenges you might have, we are here to support you and ensure that you are able to get the work done. We also have the weekly mentorship sessions. The weekly mentorship sessions. This session is focused on discussing other soft skills that you might need, discussing concepts that would help you to land a job, discussing concepts that would be relevant to your work environment. Like we talk about things like how to negotiate salaries when you eventually get a job, when you're going through an interview. We talk about things like the sit and star approach. The sit approach applied to introduce yourself in an interview. The star approach used to answer behavioral questions during an interview. All right. There's a lot more in store in this weekly mentorship session. Right. So we are very much concerned about ensuring, we are very much intentional about ensuring that you actually land a job. Right. We don't just want you to go through the course and just get the technical knowledge. We want you to get the employability skills so that you can land a job at the end of the day. And if you decide, oh, I want to go the freelance route, all right, we also have the Upwork optimization sessions, which is focused on helping you to leverage Upwork as an environment to work freelance in the tech market and still learn those big bucks. All right. So we have you covered on every end. We have you covered. All right. Now moving on to the other thing that you need, we mentioned two major things you need, right? You need the skills, right, which were broken down into technical skills and employability skills. You also need experience, all right? You also need experience. I mentioned that you need to show proof of proficiency. You need to be able to show to your employers that I know my onions, I know this thing, I know how to develop machine learning models, all right? They won't just take your word for it, all right? So you need to show it to them. And how do you do that? You do that, one, by building a portfolio of projects. Now, the way our classes are structured, all the classes you go through are going to be case study based. So for each class you're going to be going into, right, I mentioned the two learning structures, right? The self-paced learning structure as well as the live class learning structure. Both of them are going to be combined and you'll be experiencing both as you proceed through the program. All right. Through every session that you're going to be having, you're going to be working on real life case studies. These are projects that you can collect together to build a portfolio. Would also be walking you through how you can go on to build your portfolio, how you can develop how you can set up your GitHub profile and ensure that all of your projects are kept in that central location. All right. So we'll be taking you through building a portfolio that you can use to showcase your level of expertise, your level of experience in this field, your level of proficiency using these data science, data analytics, data engineering tools. You also have an extensive internship that you're going to be going through with Amdari. The program, the learning program, right? The learning period spans for 6 months where you are going to be learning with Analytics. And like I've explained, you'll be going through the live classes and also going through the Watch Me Do It videos made available on the LMS, on the Learning Management System. All right. And after your 6 months of learning and working on projects as you go, you would have a 2-month extensive internship with our sister organization, Amdari. Now, during this period, you're going to be working on different projects, a lot of really exciting projects, right? So being on this program allows you to have a unique opportunity of not just having 10 analytics on your portfolio or on your CV, but you also get to have Amdari as well, all right? So you get to show proof of proficiency, not just working with 10 analytics, not just building projects with 10 analytics, but also doing that with Amdari. Tell me a better way to learn. All right. Tell me of a better way to learn. All right. So you get to learn through an extensive program for 6 months and then go through a 2-month internship. All right. These are just examples of some of the portfolios of students that have gone through the program with us. Right. These slides are going to be made available to you so you can click on it and get to see some of the really interesting things that our participants have been able to work on. All right. So please, I want to bring this up before we proceed. Ensure that you fill the attendance form in order for you to get the recording as well as these slides. All right. So you can see some of the things that some of our participants have worked on. All right. And how you too can build some of these things when you get into the program. All right. So we've seen how you can break into these fields. All right. You need the technical skills. All right. And we've seen that analytics helps you to develop those technical skills. You also need employability skills. And we have seen that analytics also help you to get those employability skills. All right. We've also seen that you need to show proof of proficiency. You need to show that you have experience. All right. And you do that by building a portfolio. Right. And you can also show that you have gone through an internship. All right. And the internship allows you to work on projects, practice, right, and get better, show proficiency and show some level of experience working in the field. So Analytics has you covered on every end, ensuring that by the time you are done, you are fit. Even before you are done, even before you complete the program, you're already set to break into the industry, and you can even land your very first job even before completing the program. I mean, we've had testimonials of participants. We have a lot of them that have been able to land their very first job even before the end of the program. All right. So we are here for you. We are ensuring that we have you covered on every end. We have you covered on every end. All right. There's a lot of advantage here at Analytics, just as we've seen from the multiple sessions that you go through, the plethora of sessions that you go through to ensure that you are ready, right? That you are ready to break into the field. All right, there's an advantage you have from the interview simulation sessions to the sit and start approach. All of these are sessions we have during or conversations we have during the mentorship session. You are learning how you can leverage tools like ChatGPT, AI tools like ChatGPT, and so on to streamline your application process to ensure that you're able to land your very first job effortlessly. All right. We also have the job openings that are constantly made available to you. All right. You get to share exclusive visa sponsorship jobs that can only be gotten from paid platforms. We make this freely available to you as long as you are a participant with Analytics. Week in, week out, we are putting out job opportunities, job openings, right? We do the job of going out to scrape these jobs and make them available to you. All right. So we ensure that your CV is revamped, is fit for applying. We also provide these job openings to you, right? We scrape these job openings from the internet, make them available to you. So you go on to apply. And when you are called for an interview, we take the step further to also prepare you for that interview. What's better than that? I mean, this is practically the best you can get out there. All right. So, like I mentioned earlier, we are intentional about ensuring that you get a job. We are intentional about ensuring that you get a job. It's not just about learning these technical skills, but we also want you to get a job. And that's why we have all of this in place, all right, to ensure that you are able to break in seamlessly, all right. There are a lot of success stories that we can show, right? If you look through this entire slide, this is Pavel, right? Pavel had experience as a field service analyst in Tucson, Arizona. But after he joined the data analytics program in August 2024, he completed this program in December and got multiple interviews, each of which he was prepared for, right, through the job interview prep session. He secured a job as a data analyst with Arizona Community while completing the program with Analytics, right? So this is his LinkedIn post, right? This is one of the testimonials. There are a lot more, right? We have Hope, who managed to get a project management job. We have Oluwadamilare, who got a data analytics job. We have Oyefikayo, who got a data science job, a business solution analyst, after going through the data science program with us at Analytics. There are a plethora of them, right? There are a lot of them on this slide, right? And we'll provide the slides for you so you can go through each one of them, all right? So, like I said, show workings, no be cho, like my Nigerians would like to say, show workings. So this is all STEM Analytics showing our workings, all right? These are all participants that have gone through the program with us and have been able to land their very first tech jobs, all right? So what skills? We've now seen what these jobs are. We've seen what they entail. We've seen what it takes to get these jobs, right? You need technical skills. You need employability skills. You also need to show proficiency, right? So for each of these jobs, the data engineer, the data analyst, the data scientist, what specific skills must I have to learn this job, right? I explained that there's a difference between what the data engineer does and what the data analyst does. But there's also a difference between what the data analyst does and what the data scientist does, right? So what skills, what knowledge do I need to have? Firstly, as a data engineer, you need to understand what data engineering is about. We've seen a little bit of that in today's session, right? But we'll go a lot more extensively when you get into the program. You also get to understand SQL, structured query language. This might sound alien to some of us. Some of us might have heard of SQL before, right? But this might sound alien to some of us. But you get to learn that on the program. This is basically a query language that allows you to interact with a database. Remember, the data engineer is responsible for ensuring that the database is set up. So he needs to have a language that the database understands so they can have that conversation. All right. So you'll be learning about SQL, structured query language. You'd also be picking up on Python programming. Now, please, when we say Python, we're not talking about the snake Python, okay? So it's Python, the programming language. And I can tell you for a fact that Python is one of the simplest programming language to learn. It's one of the simplest. I can argue that Python is the simplest programming language to learn, but let's not go there. Right. So Python is one of the simplest programming languages out there to learn. Right. it still remains a very powerful tool, regardless of the fact that it's easy to learn. It still remains a very powerful tool that a lot of different tech professionals actually use. As a data engineer, you would need to know how to use Python. You'd also be picking up skills in using Linux. You'll also learn how to build ETL pipelines or ELT pipelines or ETLT pipelines. All right. You're also building custom pipelines. You learn how to do web scraping, extracting data from multiple sources. You learn how to work with technologies like Apache Spark, Apache Airflow, cloud engineering platforms like GCP, Azure. You'll also be looking into version control using GitHub, right? We'll also leverage ChatGPT and other AI tools for your learning and for your work. All right, so this is just a breakdown of some of the tools you're going to be learning about, from SQL to Apache Airflow to Apache PySpark to GitHub, Copilot, ChatGPT, Linux, Python. There's a lot for you to learn on the data engineering program. With all of these skills, with all of these tools, you are fit and ready to land your very first job in data engineering. All right, and look at this, the attractive salary. You can earn as high as $102,000 yearly in the US. Can you imagine how much that would do for you? 134,000 on a yearly basis as a data engineer in the US. There's a lot for you to leverage here, right? The extensive program to the 2 months intensive internship period. All right. So with these skills, you can break in to the data engineering role, right? For the data analyst role, you'll be picking up on skills like problem solving, right? So you start out the program by looking into problem solving. Remember, the focus of the data analyst is on extracting insights from the data, but there's a context here. These insights are focused on solving real world problems. All right. These insights are focused on ensuring that we are able to address the needs and problems of the organization. Right. You would also need tools like Excel. Right. Remember, I mentioned that the data analyst works with structured data in rows and columns. Excuse me. All right. So you'll be learning how to leverage a tool like Excel for not just your data analysis, but also how you can build visualizations using Excel, right? Would also be interacting with a database. Remember, for a data analyst, you need data to work with, right? So you need to be able to interact with the database where the data engineer has posted the entirety of the data, all right? So SQL allows you to interact with that database. You retrieve the data you need, and you can go on to develop visualizations and dashboards for communicating your insights using tools such as Power BI and Tableau. You'll be picking up skills in data storytelling, ensuring that you're able to tailor your analysis, tailor your findings, communicate it effectively to stakeholders, right? And ensuring that you keep them engaged and attentive throughout your presentation, right? We'll also hear how we can leverage tools, AI tools like ChatGPT and Microsoft Fabric for your analytics. All right, so this is an extensive learning structure, ensuring that you pick up on the necessary skills that you need as a data analyst. And the same goes on for data science. You'll be picking up skills from statistics. I mentioned that you need statistics to break in as a data scientist. All right, you apply statistical methods to business problems and address the needs of the business. All right, so you'll be learning about statistics, you'll be learning about forecasting and predictive analytics, forecasting what the future is likely going to look like using Microsoft Excel. You'd also be leveraging Tableau for data analytics. You'll be building visualizations to extract patterns, to observe patterns within your data. All right, you can also leverage SQL. SQL is relevant to all 3 roles. All right, SQL is important to all 3 roles. All right, so SQL allows you to interact with a database where the data has been stored. You'd also need the Python programming language. All right, I mentioned that the Python programming language is one of the easiest to learn and a very extensive one, right? There's a lot that you can actually get done with the Python programming language. So as a data scientist, you'd also be using Python. We've seen that the data engineer uses Python, but the data analyst does not, right? So we are seeing slight differences between the core competencies and tools and skills that are required by each roles, right? And even with the Python programming language, the way the data analyst will be using it it's going to be different from how, the way the data engineer would use Python would be different from how the data scientist would be using Python, right? The data engineer will be using it to streamline certain processes, to scrape data, and so on. The data scientist will be focused on extracting insights from their data, conducting exploratory data analysis to observe patterns and trends in their data, and developing machine learning models. All right, so we see that both of them are using the same tool. However, they are using it differently. All right, so as a data scientist, you need to pick up skills like understanding how to use the Python programming language, also how to conduct exploratory data analysis, which is basically exploring your data to pick up patterns, insights, and trends, relationships, correlations that might exist within your data. You'd also be using Python to develop machine learning models, as well as computer vision models and natural language processing models that are able to have conversations with humans, understand text, right, interpret this text, and analyze text data. Remember, as a data scientist, you'll be working with both structured and unstructured data. Right? So Python allows you to be able to perform such analysis both on structured and unstructured data. You'd also see how you can build your portfolio and use GitHub for version control. So each program, right, is streamlined to ensure that you have all the skills that are required to break into these fields. All right. We also ensure that we go extensively to ensure that you are learning the best. All right. To ensure that you're getting the best knowledge. All right. Each of these programs, like I've explained before, are structured to have live classes running on weekends. All right. And we have 2 classes happening on each weekend. However, you only get to choose 1 class to be in, right? So we have the structure to ensure that everyone has a time that works for them. All right. We have the morning class that runs from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. West African time, right? And this works best for those in the European Union, for those in the UK, and those in Africa as well, right? And then we have the evening session that runs from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. West African time. That will be 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. MST, and this works better for those in the US and Canada. All right. So this learning structure goes the same for all the other programs, for data analytics as well as the data engineering program. All right. So you'd have this learning structure to learn on weekends, and then we have the self-paced videos that you get to watch during the week before the live class happens on the weekend. All right, so this is just a breakdown of all the different tools that you need, how the program is going to be structured, and how your learning is going to go. 6 months of learning and 2 months of internship. Now that we have gotten an understanding of what this role applies, what skills are required, and how analytics helps you to acquire some of these skills. Now we are going to be talking about how you can get started today. How can you get started today? For all of us that are stuck around to the end of the program, we are over 58 right now on the call, right? For sticking around, we have a special offer for you. How can you get started today? You now understand what the technical skills required are, what the employability skills required are, how you can build a portfolio, how you can show proof of proficiency, how you can show your expertise as a data engineer, as a data analyst, as a data scientist. How can you get started today? You now know the skills that are required. How can you get started with your journey? You can start with us at Analytics and also leverage the special discounts we are giving out. Right? You can join our next cohort, which is starting on April 5th and May 10th. Right? And we have a special discount that we are currently putting out there. Right? In celebration of the International Women's Day, we are putting out a 50% discount for the first 300 women to apply for the program, and for the first 50 men to apply for the program. Now, these slots are already selling out really fast. These slots are getting filled really fast. So in order to leverage these opportunities, I would really encourage, I would really advise, right, that you go on to take advantage of this opportunity. You've understood what the expectation is. You've seen that these jobs are highly in demand. You can earn hundreds of thousands of dollars working in these tech roles. All right. You can earn up to 50, up to 60,000 pounds working in the UK in these tech roles. All right. So we've seen that These are high in demand tech skills. And Analytics is here spreading the good news, right? And celebrating the amazing women that we have, right? And we are giving out a 50%, a whooping 50% discount. However, there are limited slots for you to take advantage of. All right. So instead of paying a whooping $900 for the program, you get to pay $450 and take advantage of the 50% off based on this offer. All right, based on this offer. My colleagues are already dropping the links in the chat. You can simply click on that to go on to start making payments, right? I'm going to be walking us through how you can as well do that on your end. I'm going to quickly share my screen. I'm going to quickly share a different screen so I can show us how you can actually get this done. Okay, so just give me a moment to get that. All right, so yeah, we have the 50% discount currently running. Take advantage of this opportunity. Take advantage of this opportunity now and leverage that to get started on your tech journey. Get started on your tech journey today. Let me quickly share my screen so we can see how you can go about the payment process. All right, so my screen should be up any moment now. All right, awesome. Right, so in order to take advantage of the opportunity, right, take advantage of the 50% discount, all you have to do is click on the link that my colleagues are sharing in the chat. That will bring you up to this site. All right, that will bring you up to our main stack site where you can go on to make payments. Right, you can see that the 50% discount is still running. The IWD campaign is still running, right, and we are still giving out discounts to whoever is signing up for the program. All right, so you can simply come in here and click on this link, secure your discounted slot. Right, just come in here and click on the link to secure your discounted slot. Right, that will take you onto this page by the 2025 IWD scholarship. All right, there's a lot of value for you to gather from the program, from the technical skills to the employability skills to other sessions that you can leverage. All right, so take advantage of this discount. All right, so all you have to do is come onto the page, and once you get in here, you get to be able to make payments, right, depending on the currency you can pay in, and there's also an option to pay in installments. All right, so you can get to pay in 3 installments. All right, so you can get to pay in installments if you can't pay the bulk of it at once, and ensure that you can secure your slots. You can see over here that there are only 31 seats available. All right, and right now on the call there are over 58 participants. Right, there are over 58 people on the call. All right, so take advantage of this. Start making payments today. Secure your slots today, right, before these seats run out. All right, just click on the drop down. You can see a breakdown if you are paying in US dollars. Right, you can see the breakdown. You can pay $450 or you can spread it to make it $150. Spread the payment for a period of 3 months. But ensure that you are locking in your slot right now. There are only 31 seats left. All right, and we have over 55 people on the call now. So you know that there are limited slots left. So I really encourage that you start out right now. This is your opportunity, right? This is your opportunity to break into the field of tech. I would really encourage that you leverage it now that you can. So take advantage of the discount that's currently running, and I'll be looking forward to seeing you in class. All right, so just to give you a bit more about analytics, we've had a lot of accomplishments in recent time. Right, just a little bit more about analytics. We've had a lot of accomplishments in recent time, right, from being in the Alberta. Sorry, let me go back here. Okay, so these are testimonials. Sorry about that. Let me share my screen again and then we'll proceed. All right, so I was saying just a little bit more about our accomplishments so far, right? As we've seen, Analysts has trained thousands of participants, helping them to break into the field of tech, right? We have had other milestones so far in the course of our work so far, right? One of which is participating in the Alberta Catalyzer program last year, right? Um, um, we've been able to participate in the Alberta Catalyzer. So you can see that we are constantly developing and ensuring that we're moving forward and getting better so that we can give you the best value, right? So that we can give you the best value. At the end of the program, you'd also be getting a certificate that has been accredited by the American Council of Training and Development. All right, so you'll not just be getting these skills, or be also all of the other opportunities, right? Not just the technical and soft skills. You'd also be getting a certification at the end of the program. So all round you're covered, from the live classes to a self-paced learning structure to picking up soft skills to being prepared for interviews, helping you revamp your CV, helping you revamp your LinkedIn profile, to going through an extensive 2 months internship, getting to put not just analytics on your CV and on your portfolio, but analytics as well as Amdari. You also get to get a certificate at the end of the program, an accredited certificate at the end of the program. The program is rounded, is well-rounded, ensuring that every aspect is catered for and ensuring that you're getting the best value for your money. So I would really recommend, I really encourage you to take advantage of the discount that's currently running. As we've seen, there are limited stocks left. There are limited slots left. So take advantage of the opportunity and sign up. I'll be looking forward to seeing you all in class. Like I've mentioned earlier, if you haven't filled out the attendance form, please make sure you do so. So you'll be provided with these slides as well as a recording of today's session. So in case you need to revise anything that was discussed, and you can as well go over the plethora of success stories that we have from all of our participants, sharing about their experiences, how they've been able to break into the field of tech, and how they have been doing amazingly well in their different careers so far. It's been an exciting and awesome session, and I'm really excited about the chance to get to meet each and every one of you in class. Right, so it's been a wonderful session, and at this point, we'll be wrapping up and closing the curtains for today. But before we draw the curtains, I would like to give opportunities to us, right, to go on to ask questions. So if you do have any questions, please go on to ask. This will be your chance to do so. Okay, so Joseph is asking, may I ask if discount consideration can be given to someone that paid and settled this match? Unfortunately not. Unfortunately not. So the discount is currently running for subsequent cohorts. Right? So if you've already started, you have to keep up with the program. It says, how much is the amount for the training in Canada? All right, so I'm going to share my screen again. I'm going to share my screen again. Once you click on the link, you can actually go on to change the unit of currency. Right, so right now it's in US dollars. If you change this to, let me just type here, CAD, Canadian dollars. Right, so it's 650 Canadian dollars, but you can also spread the payment. Right, you can as well spread the payment and pay in installments. All right, so this is it. Just click on the link, go onto the website. You can come to the top here and then switch the method of payment. So whatever currency you want to pay in, you can decide to check the specific currency and see what the equivalent price is going to be in that specific currency. All right, so if I wanted to pay in pounds, I could switch it to British pounds, and I'm seeing that it's 370 pounds for the one-time payment, or you can spread the payments over a period of time. Right, I'm paying installments. Right, I hope that makes sense. Okay, so next question. Is it advisable to use MacBook for data analysis program? Yes, so whether you use a Mac or a Windows, what's important is ensuring that you're able to install the necessary tools that you would be needing for your work. All right, so you'll be needing tools like Microsoft Excel and Power BI and SQL. Now, Microsoft Excel is a Microsoft tool, right, which might not be available for Mac, right? But I think there are virtual environments that allow you to also, there are other options that you have to install Windows softwares on a Mac. But yeah, you can work with a MacBook as well. You can work with a MacBook as well. Excuse me. Which program would you recommend? Which program would you recommend for someone thinking of starting a career in tech who has zero prior knowledge of tech? Like I said in the conversation we had today, any one of these programs, right? You can leverage any one of them. You can actually get into any one of these programs. All right. So all of them, the program is structured to be beginner friendly, taking you from the basics all the way further to much more advanced stuff. All right. So any one of them that you find that you pick up interest in, right? You are absolutely on the right track. All right. What you have to consider is what exactly this job role entails and if you actually have interest in them. All right. What your career journey has been like and what you aspire to actually achieve for your career. Which of these programs are you having interest in? From today's session, we've digressed each one of them, we've digested each one of them, explained what each one entails. So all you have to do is have a look at each one. Which one am I more interested in? Which one am I likely going to want to get into? And then you go on to proceed with that. I hope that makes sense and I hope that answers your question. All right, so like I said, these programs are beginner friendly. So we're going to be taking you from basics all the way to advanced concepts, all the way to advanced concepts. So what of those that join and due to start in April? Any discounts? So before, I'm not exactly sure what your question is. If you've already signed up for the program, then you can take things on and continue. So, but if you haven't already, you can leverage the IWD discount that's currently running, right? And make payments before the slots get filled out. My cohort is supposed to be 6 months internship. Okay, so I believe that has been answered. Can you use two different systems for the training? Like a desktop computer and a laptop? Yeah, sure. Yeah, sure. The main thing is for you to have access to both of them when you need to. So yeah, right? There's a fixed time for our live classes and all the other sessions, right? So as long as you have your computer readily available, you also have the tools that are required for each of these sessions, all right? So you don't want a situation where you are in an SQL class, for example, and then let's say PG admin is not yet installed on your desktop. You have it on your laptop, but it's not on your desktop. You want to make sure that the tools are made available on all of the computers. But yeah, if you have multiple computers, that works just fine. Just ensure that everything that you need is available on all of these computers. Okay, so Ismail is asking, can you explain freelance? Can you explain freelance? So basically working freelance simply means you are not working full-time. You are not working full-time for an organization. You're basically working on contract, per contract, right? So an organization could employ you to work on a specific project for them. And once that project is completed or once your contract is the period of your contract is exhausted, then you cut ties with them. Right? So in most cases, they would employ you for a particular project. Once the project is over, your contract gets terminated or they could renew it. But basically the idea is that you are not working full-time for one organization. You're basically picking up jobs on contracts. And when you complete a contract, you can move on. Does that make sense? Just give me a thumbs up if it does. Namdi is asking, can I get the discount for cybersecurity training, please? Yes, Namdi. The discount is running for all programs. Just keep in mind that we have few slots left. So you want to make your move fast. So if you want to take advantage of the discount, you want to make your move fast. Okay, so FPZ is asking between data analytics and business analytics. Now, like I said, all of the programs are beginner friendly. All of the programs are structured to be beginner friendly. What you should be asking is the difference between the role of a data analyst and the role of a business analyst. All right. We've seen what the data analyst does, right? We understand what exactly a data analyst does. A business analyst is more process focused. All right, is on ensuring that the business requirements are met. Is on ensuring that the business requirements are outlined, right, are clearly outlined, and ensuring that these business requirements are met. All right, they'll be applying data tools and processes, right? They would also be analyzing data, but the focus is on ensuring that the business needs are met, right? Ensuring that business requirements are clearly stated and executed in order to ensure that these business needs are met. All right, so yeah, the data analysis focus on analyzing the data and extracting insights, and the business analyst, on the other hand, has a context here, right? And that's focused on processes and systems, ensuring that the business requirements are met. All right, so you need to consider these two things. Consider yourself as well. What exactly am I interested in? And that will be that should be the yardstick for your decision. All right, you can as well join the clarity session, right? So we can have in-depth conversations about this. But yeah, the focus should be on what program you actually have interest in, which career path you actually have interest in, right? But as far as beginner friendliness goes, every single one of the programs are beginner friendly. We ensure that we break things down as simply as possible for you so you can follow through as we proceed. All right, I hope that answers your question. I think that's all the questions we've had today so far. I'm sure we had a fantastic session. If you enjoyed the session, can you just throw in an emoji in the chat if you enjoyed the session today? If you enjoyed the session today, just send in an emoji. FEC is asking, is there a class for business analysts? Yes, there is. Yes, there is. Yes, there is. But also keep in mind that there are limited slots left. So you want to book your slot as quickly as possible. All right. So it's been an awesome session. We've had really interesting conversations so far, really brilliant questions from everyone. And I'm sure, and I believe that we all got what we were able to learn today. Right. So the recording of the session is going to be made available. As long as you have filled the attendance form, you'll be getting access to the recording as well as the slides from today's session. Right. It's been an awesome one, and I'll be looking forward to seeing us in class. I'll be looking forward to seeing us on the program. Have a lovely evening, everyone, and bye for now.